Both towers you look at live now, black smoke billowing. Handed some information right now. The World Trade Center was built to withstand full force impact from a Boeing 727. That's the largest plane in the air at this time. Jim Dolan handing us that information, and that was at the time when it was built. So at worst case scenario, the Boeing 727 at that time could run into the World Trade Center and it could survive and withstand the full force. Those obviously were smaller than the Boeing 727. There's another look from news. For those of you that might be traveling that are watching this broadcast, LaGuardia Airport and Kennedy Airport are now closed. Both those airports are closed. The FBI now is reporting to the Associated Press that this is foul play. This is not an accident. The FBI has told the Associated Press that two planes that have gone into the World Trade Center are not by accident, that it is foul play involved. I speculated earlier and certainly questioned earlier that perhaps navigational equipment might have been disrupted or harmed that would cause two planes to take such a tack.
We're hearing, Marcia, from the Associated Press that the FBI is investigating reports of a plane hijacking before this crash. Have you heard anything on your end?
We haven't heard anything yet, but you know, the fact that see, the thing is that there are two things that happen when you have two crashes 18 minutes apart. It can be one of two things. It can be something that was planned by a terrorist group, or it can be just that the air traffic control system completely crashed. This is going to take a lot of investigating. It's too early to rush to judgment. Right now, I think the major concern for most people here in New York City is getting the people out of the building and treating the casualties.
Remember that the World Trade Towers were the subject of an attack. How many years ago was it now? 10, 11? I can't even remember for sure. Again, there has been a lot of security there. There has been obviously they've been very consistent in keeping those buildings rather secure. So once again,
well, always secure at the bottom.
That's right.
You know, you can't get it from ground level, but obviously very vulnerable up in the sky.
Actually, I was washing my dishes at my window, and I heard a very low plane, which usually does happen, but when I looked up, it was like I was actually gliding with it, and I saw it actually went straight into one of the Twin Towers. It was like it sunk right into the floor. It disintegrated instantly.
Can you tell us what kind of an airplane it was?
It looked like a huge 747. It was a big airline. It wasn't a small jet. It was a big carrier.
And you couldn't see anybody? Could you see a pilot or any such thing?
No, I actually was. It was like side by side. It was like I was right behind it. It was huge. I couldn't believe how low it was. I was telling my roommate, this plane is very low. And I actually saw it go straight into the Twin Towers. Like, why is he going into the building? It was like it was almost deliberately glided into the building.
Elena, where exactly do you live? Where did you see this from? Battery Park City?
No, I'm in the East Village on 13th Street.
And you then saw the plane go into the building, and I assume you saw the resulting...
You better believe it. I saw an explosion like I have never seen, and all I can say is those people, I don't know, but they're all definitely disintegrated. It was the most awful thing I've ever seen. It was so sad. I was like a nervous wreck.
Well, I don't blame you. I appreciate you.
It really was awful, and all I can say is we should pray for those people, because it looked to me that it was deliberate. Unless the pilot had a heart attack, it was like this big 747 just went right into the floor of the Twin Towers.
Well, Elena,
yes.
We thank you very much for
yes.
for calling us and giving us this information.
Absolutely.
And you know, obviously stick with us, because we are going to find out what happened. We just simply do not know for sure yet, other than the fact that airplanes ran into both of the Twin Towers.
We have now reports on the wires that the FBI is investigating this as foul play, a crime here, obviously. Looks like this is definitely deliberate.
Is concerned, there have been talk over the years about the threat of terrorism making the buildings fall down onto the streets. But I can reassure everybody that they seem to be holding up fairly well while efforts are going forward to fight the fires and whatever happened in those two towers.
And let's just to be sure, there it is. There it is. The plane went right through the other tower of the World Trade Center.
That is a very hard thing to watch.
And clearly untold carnage must be the result of those suicide terrorist activities.
That was a large commercial jet.
The gentleman, Jim Friedel, the gentleman from Hoboken who was watching, said the first one looked to him like a 727.
Well, look at the wingspan, the swath it cut through the towers.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of speculation, no doubt. And for years we have been talking about security from terrorists here in this major city. It makes you wonder how, if it indeed were two planes, we did see one, how did they manage to get into the area and to
you
just
wonder,
hit the plane like that?
These are all the things that are going to have to be answered. How could two large planes just that quickly get out of control from our local
presumably commercial aircraft. Now, we can't speak to the first one, but that second aircraft that went through looked like a large twin-engine or three-engine jet. Those are simply not around for private aviation.
Yeah, that's not your Piper Cub.
No, it is not.
That's obviously designed to do considerable damage to those buildings on this day when we're holding a primary election in New York City.
Now, I would imagine...
Ollie?
Jim, what you're saying could be a drone aircraft. That's an aircraft that's guided electronically to its target without having a pilot. Now, that is a possibility as well.
Cosby, thanks very much. I want to bring into the conversation William Daley. Bill, I know that Osama bin Laden likes airplanes, and again, we are not attributing this act to his organization, but he was implicated in a plot to blow up something like 13 airliners in 13 days, or 8 in 8 days, that back in the Philippines, back in the 1980s, I believe.
Exactly.
Airplanes have been his terrorist weapon of choice in the past.
They have, because they hold for someone like a bin Laden or other terrorists. The fact that you could take a plane and within just the number of people on the plane commit such a horrendous act at one time makes an impact to the world. Combine that with what we see in front of our eyes today at the World Trade Center, and you certainly conjure up the worst possible scenario that certainly law enforcement could think of what a terrorist might do. Before we get on to, possibly bin Laden, there are certainly other terrorist groups around the world that would like to do things like this. The question would be who might be able to actually carry out such an incident, whether by sheer manpower, training, or some other device. So although he's certainly our poster boy literally for terrorism worldwide, there are other groups out there that certainly have also ill intent against the United States. But what we see before us today is, as I mentioned before, is something that in planning scenarios gets almost into the catastrophic, where it's to prevent something like this from happening. Planes fly by, John, as you may know, and I know, having traveled in and out of the city, come up and down the East River by the hundreds each day, by the thousands each week, and passing by the Trade Center.
At rooftop level.
You look down and you see the antenna, you see the windows. So this is something that, even on a bad day, they fly up and down that route. Today was a perfectly clear day in New York.
Even if some air traffic controllers saw those airplanes, and certainly they would have been in view of air traffic control, it might not have looked all that unusual.
The first plane, which from my appearance, I saw it over Fifth Avenue heading south when I was coming to work, appeared to be a 737, or as I said, a smaller Airbus. That could fit with what Rita just reported, that her sources are saying that perhaps it was a plane hijacked from Boston, which obviously is north, that is a used air route down through Manhattan before planes make a left into LaGuardia. So clearly, perhaps there may not have been an indication that something was wrong at that time.